Okay, go ahead. It's got perhaps conflict and critical go hand in hand between contemporary and classical. Yes? And then I have rational and structural go hand in hand.
They
And
do.
then the interaction phenomenology. Okay. Yes.
Wow.
Phenomenology, that's in your mind.
It's social interaction.
I'm waiting for it to pull up, but I think my question was regarding, I believe the second part of the first question where we have to intertwine them. And so do we have to just do one example and then hide all in there? Or
It would be best, you would be best served to use one example, right?
Right.
And so, like, race is a really good example that can be used on all of them, right? And how is race a reflection of conflict theory, or how do we explain race by way of conflict theory? How do we explain race by any one of those particular theoretical perspectives?
then you watch?
You have to utilize an example, right?
Right.
Throughout. What I'm saying is, one example, it's better to use the same example throughout from different perspectives than try and remember multiple examples to be used, let's say 3 times.
Yeah.
3 examples to be used with each comparison.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Okay, so on phenomenology, I loved your example about the smile between you. That one is ingrained now. And then, okay, I know on a macro level you said we eventually get around to institutionalizing a behavior, but is it just in a thought level or is it an action as well?
Phenomenology does not look at the formalized nature of things.
Okay.
Now, can we see evidence of those things? Yes. But it does not directly address the formal nature of institutionalization. So, that example, right, the smile. It's like everyone in our society, quote unquote, everyone in our society knows when you smile, it means something, right? But there's no law written that says if somebody smiles at you, you have to smile back at them.
Right.
There are no formalized consequences if you do not engage in the norm.
And speaking of that, I was thinking at one point about stopping at a stoplight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's actually a law. So it's different than a norm, right? Because it's actually the law.
It is still a norm. It's still a norm.
Okay.
It's just a formalized norm.
Okay.
Okay? So remember, norms come in different, intensities, if you will.
Okay.
Both ways, mores, etc.
Okay.
Okay? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So while we can extrapolate the formality of things, phenomenology does not formally address them. Does not directly address the formal nature of the institutional component. Okay?
Are you going to be looking specifically like say for phenomenology and whatnot, as far as like wording within, like applying it as like macro level and micro? Do you want us to explain like, okay, we're going to look at this, explore the situation on a micro or macro level?
Okay, so this is the thing with the terminology, right? Don't do concept bombs, all right? Just don't throw something in there and not be able to write about it, okay? And again, everybody's essay is going to look different. And everyone has a different writing ability, right? So if you can write to that detail in theoretically 45 minutes, right? Like we split the hour in 15 and a half, right? If you can do that, that's great. Okay? Okay, well then don't do it. Alright? Alright? But again, remember what you're doing here. You're trying to show me your understanding of a theoretical perspective. Do I expect you to go in extraordinary detail? No. But Do you have to have some measure of detail? Yes. So I know that's probably not really what you want, it's not as explicit as you wanted to hear, but that's what I got. Sorry, not sorry, kind of. Yes, ma'am.
Regarding the timing, what you just said about how we have to split it into, into halves or whatever, will there be any grace time at the end? Because, okay,
There will be a small bit of grace time, okay, and what will happen is, because I have your blue books, for those of you who actually brought in a blue book, I have the blue book, I will meet you here a little bit early, okay, a couple minutes early, and as you come in the door, you will come and pick up your blue book from me. Inside that blue book will be the questions for the day, okay? You go back to your seat quietly, you can begin writing, all right? There will be a small window of grace, not much. So spread the word to those of you who are not here, especially those who have not brought me a blue book, right? Number one, if you bring in a blue book, I will be inspecting it, okay? Number two, there's some time constraints, and there's not much wiggle room, okay?
Yes, ma'am. What are the things I gotta be on the blue book again?
Pardon me?
The things I gotta be on the blue book again?
Soch 3110, exam number 1, your
Excuse me.
put the date on it just so I don't mess it up with any other blue book.
I don't know if you can, if you want to answer the specific question. I've been kind of racking my brain about this rational choice and structural functionalism. And on the way in, I mean, just a half hour ago, I found these quotes on my very quotes. One of it was pretty handy.
See, I told you those things would come in.
They did. Well, one of them says that the result is that people buy expensive goods not so much because they're superior, but because they're expensive. So I was thinking the reward, that would work with it, rational and exchange.
Well, because it's rational in that there's something of value attached to that, right? So, Honey just went and bought himself a $169 pair of Jordans. I wouldn't do it, but I would spend $169 on a purse. Okay? That's a rational choice. And it does two things. It not only speaks to the reward, right? Because his reward is different than my reward, right? I'm going to engage in a particular activity because of what I can get out of it. It's that thing that has more value to it, right? And some people may purchase things that are more expensive, not because they are of higher quality, but because of the value of the name, so to speak.
This was on the page they talked about conspicuous consumption from structural functionalism, and the other one was Homans was saying that he dismissed structural functionalism. He says the individual shapes society, not the other way around. So I started getting confused again.
Don't get confused. Don't look, again, remember what I said, is that you don't have to be specific about the theorist. You have to be specific about the theory.
Okay.
There's a distinction there.
So that was just his opinion.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
okay, so from the questions, it sounds like some of us are focusing maybe on a core element of the overall theory. And is that okay to do, whether than addressing the theory as a blanket, can we focus on maybe a core theory that speaks to us instead?
You have to be able to show me that you understand the broader theoretical perspective.
Okay.
Now, if in that conversation you feel like it would be beneficial to focus on a particular component, you may do so. You know, so for example, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. Did we talk about Merton in here? No.
A little bit.
Oh.
I'm getting my classes confused, that's why I'm asking the question. Did we talk about Merton and his typology?
In the beginning.
Yeah, we did?
Oh.
Okay. So when you talk about Merton's typology, if you were to talk about Merton's typology, right, broadly speaking, you would talk about it in a way that says something to the effect of, okay, so Merton's typology is used to explain, you know, different responses to social strain. Okay, make sense? For example, innovation means, or innovation is,
Okay.
and he has other ideas, you know, just, you could use innovation, which is a component of the overall perspective, as an example. But you have to tell me what the purpose of the typology was. Does that make sense?
Follow-up question. So in that regard then, do I need to compare it to the rest of them if I'm only, so if there's like a set of typologies, then if I'm addressing one, do I need to address the consecutive or the related other typologies?
Which question specifically are you referring to?
I'm sorry, I'm just talking in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's hard to answer that because
Okay.
that sounds more specific, right? Again, your task is to address each of the components of the prompt, right?
Right.
To the best of your ability within the time allotted to you.
Okay.
Okay? How you do that is really gonna be up to you. Okay? So if comparing and contrasting other typologies makes sense to you in the context of whatever it is you're doing, then do so. Okay? But
So long as
again,
it makes
there's
sense.
not, I don't have this, you've seen the rubric, right? It doesn't say, does the student speak about this component, this component, this component, this component? They're more generalized, okay? Because it would be impossible for me to hold each of you to that level of that high of a standard, given the number, you know, what you have to write and the time allotted to you. So you get the core ideas down, make sure that I can see that you know what you're talking about, and then, you know, you go from there. Okay. If you have time to add detail, great. If not, get the basics down first. And do it in, okay, when I say get the basics down, that doesn't mean that you just, from rote memory, give me a definition. It needs to be a little bit more nuanced than that, right? Okay? This is a junior level course minimum. A lot of you are seniors. I expect that your writing to be at a certain level. The writing expectation doesn't change because of the brevity of what you may say.
For conflict theory, she reminded me, when I was writing it, I was writing all about how Marx started it and, you know, the capitalists and alienation and all kinds of stuff. Do you want all of that in there, or just more, do you want that kind of history in it, or do you want more,
The history is
application?
nice because it helps me understand, you know, what you're talking about, right? But is that the core of what you're supposed to be doing for that question? The overall essence of that question is that you be comparing and contrasting theoretical perspectives, right? So if you're comparing or you're contrasting weighs heavily more so to one side than the other, I'm gonna question whether or not you understand the other. Okay? Clear, concise, coherent, and complete. And understanding you only have approximately 45 minutes to write this one.
Pieces in order to have a structure in our society. Now, rational choice is just that, it's a rational choice.
Structural functionalism and rational choice, right? Structural functionalism says that each component of society works together to allow society to move forward and to function, correct? Because it functions for whatever the reason. Okay? For whatever the reason, it functions in your world. You know, functionalism is a very rational kind of perspective because each component has its place, right? Each component works together for the outcome, whatever that outcome is, you know? And so when we're thinking about that in comparison to rational choice, you're making a decision because it works for you. There's something of value on the other end of that, right?
I wanted to use crime as like example for that theory. This thing that was juvenile that we just talked about, which is why I'm asking. I was saying that there's like a 5-year component and like a goal component and development, but like when we talk about a juvenile, there was like only a choice component.
Okay, so remember that you're two different classes, right? Right. So I'm not going to go in depth in juvenile delinquency about some of these theoretical perspectives as I am here, because the task of the two classes is different. Okay? So focus, you may utilize that example, but remember what it is that you're doing here. Okay? So when you think about how crime would be both pleasurable and functional,
Well, I would say sometimes to add that those responsibilities to like enjoy the violent parts of it, the pleasurable stuff, and it's functioning in some sort of mentally therapeutic way.
in some respects, yeah. Yeah, it could be just that crime causes an adrenaline rush, you know, but at the same time, it's functional in that they are getting something else out of it, maybe something practical. So, for example, the individual who goes and beats the crap out of somebody who disrespected somebody else in the gang, right? They get that adrenaline rush, but it also has a very practical function because they receive some extra respect in the community, that kind of thing. Okay? Yes, ma'am?
For number 4, like I wonder if this is something that we could put in for the first part. How does the structure of social networks contribute to the production of social capital? So could we say that every transaction that we have within each other, that is the social networks, and it's a big part. It's a part of the bigger social capital. So all of those components fit within that social capital.
Yes, you can. Think, okay, so, my sister is dating this guy who just bought a new Harley, right? Okay, so his network is set up because of his relationships and his interactions with people. It's like, hey, where can I go to get some new handlebars, kind of thing, right? So the network functions in that way. At the same time, it allows for the building of and the accumulation of social capital, because now he's got this really hot Harley with these really cool handlebars, that kind of thing. So they work together, they work in conjunction with one another. Because if there were no network, and he just had this bike, you know, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay, yes ma'am.
So, in my mind, I was thinking the social capital that we gain is the new place that he went to get the nighttime money. Now back to the capital.
What is social capital?
Influence.
Hmm? Yeah, so social capital is not so much the physical object, right? But it relates to the physical object. Does that make sense? So, dude on the street corner that's got the new Jordans, everybody's like, oh, you got the new Jordans, da 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 da. And all of the ideas that come along with that, okay? How Jordans are a social status symbol. Okay, they increase your capital, your ability to spend social capital. Okay, so when you walk in someplace, I told y'all the story about how every time I go somewhere with my father, he says, "I got out of the professor," right? That's him spending social capital that's mine. Does that make sense? You know, because and you never know how valuable that capital is with the person in the interaction until you see their response. Okay? So for me, you know, I could care less about his bike and his hockey. But for my sister, it's like, ooh, you know. Social capital is different, and your ability to spend it and utilize it, so to speak, depends on your network. Okay, and in the culture that surrounds that. Yes, ma'am.
So for that, I was thinking that in my social network, I have friends whose mom works in the hospital. She helped me get the job, so I was using my social capital in order to obtain the job.
It worked both ways. It worked both ways, right? You utilize your social capital with her, right? But then she used hers to get you the job. She spent some capital to get you that job. So every time one of y'all asks me for a letter of recommendation, I'm spending my capital on you. Okay?
And by asking it is networking.
Is part of the network. Because we are in the same network, you have the ability to come ask me for something like that. You have the ability to go ask your friend's mama to help you get the job.
So each individual is a component of the network.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Ms. Branch, you had your hand up, sir. You can't remember what it was? Because I answered it, because that's what I do. Next.
So for regarding the
You gotta speak up.
regarding the maximum, point number 5, regarding the potential reward to establish a power. That's the homeless. So it's from homeless and blah. It relates to the different propositions like the stimulus and the success and all that, right? It relates to
What does the question it say? Itself say?
Do you think this motive is a characteristic of our relationships? If not, what other considerations might guide our interactions with others? What relationships are more likely to generate such considerations?
So what are those aspects that you're talking about?
Like, you know how, for example, with the Valentine's Day thing, I think that came from the frustration and aggression because you got a reaction from a different individual and whatever regarding the frustration. Like, you know, if you want to grade, they frustrated, so your emotions.
Yeah, subjective reward.
Okay, so Holman and Blau suggest that in calculating potential rewards from interacting with others, individuals attempt to establish a position of power, such as maximizing your own reward is contingent on having others dependent on us for the rewards that they seek. Okay, so trying to think of the most banal example I can. You come into my office and you tell me what a wonderful instructor I am, that I'm just brilliant and I'm beautiful and I'm all of these things, right? Okay? In an effort to maximize your potential reward. Because after you tell me all of that, you say, you know, Professor Rasmussen, I was kind of, you know, I had some issues come up and, you know, can I turn in that paper late? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay? Okay? So, you are attempting to establish a position of power, thinking that the rewards that you're giving me, or what you believe to be a reward for me, will result in a reward for you. Okay?
And the reward for you are the compliments?
The reward for me would be the compliment.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But the dependent part is the
Okay. So, such as maximizing maximizing our own reward is contingent on the others dependent upon us for their rewards, the rewards they seek. This all happens because you think I want your approval, that I want your praise, that I want, okay? And all of this relates back to previous, interactions and stuff like that. I guess you need this diagnosis when you start. You might want your paper back to write on. Okay? So previous examples, previous interactions imply to you, have taught you by experience, that other individuals like to be praised. Okay? So you're saying that I'm dependent upon you in that interaction to praise me, which is my reward. Okay? You are then trying to maximize your reward by giving me what you think I want in order to get what you want, which is an extension on the paper. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay? No, it doesn't make sense to Miss Alvarez. Okay.
Can I ask you the portion that doesn't make sense?
Yes, go ahead.
So the portion that doesn't make sense is the position of power, because your example sounds like the asking person is putting you in the position of power as opposed to the person asking coming in with a position of power.
She's exercising her power. She is in a position of power. Inherently, yes, I am in a position of power, right?
Right.
Because I'm the instructor and she's trying to get something out of me.
Right.
Okay? But by utilizing the compliments, she's putting herself in a perceived position of power.
Okay.
So
I'm trying to think of another example.
Stack stuff to make her appear.
Yes. I'm trying to think of another example.
What about,
So if I said, same example, but if I said the dean said that you could do this, would that mean, like,
Yes.
I'm putting
Yes.
myself as like, it's not me asking, it's in behalf of
Yes.
someone else? Okay.
Yes.
So it's in regards to with the intrinsic and the intrinsic reward.
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Fuller, you had.
well, I had two examples running in here. I had one which was about corporate America not paying people very much money, and then we're dependent to keep going back.
Mm-hmm.
And another one was about domestic violence, how they oppress the people, and
Mm-hmm.
and they are dependent on them. They often don't have a job, or their esteem is so low they don't, they're kind of dependent on them.
Yes.
Is that sort of along those
Yes.
lines?
Yes, that
Okay.
works too. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just wondering for number 5, for the homeless and blah, can you give like an example?
That's what we just did.
Calculating the control award?
That's what we just did.
Basically,
That whole conversation was about just that very
It
question.
didn't seem like you gave an example, it seemed like you just said like what it was.
I gave an example.
basically, say if you want to come to our office or whatever, and you basically compliment her in order to get an extension or a better grade on a paper that you wrote. So that's basically like a reward, because her if I'm right, her intrinsic reward is they complimenting her, and in return, you getting an extension or a better grade.
Okay, so, Ms. Fuller, I'm gonna use your domestic violence one, okay? Because it seems like it just makes it a better, okay. So, the perpetrator of the domestic violence is in a position of power, right? Whether it be financial, physical, or otherwise, correct? Okay? They are exercising that position of power in order to get the reward that they want, which is the dependence of the other individual, okay? That other individual is gonna do whatever it is that they want them to do because they are dependent upon them. Does that make sense? Okay, does that help?
Yes, so what keywords are you looking for?
You know me better than that. You know me better than that, come on now.
Okay, with that one, okay, so the perpetrator has the power, the person being perpetrated, what's their reward? There's no reward for them, because
they still get a house to live in, you know.
Okay, you know,
things like that.
I was thinking of like something crazier, like lifetime.
I'll help you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, kid, we had
For some reason,
sorry. I didn't know that the placement of it, but thank you for acting, thank
He
you.
started freaking out. He was like, oh my gosh.
Like, no. Okay, I'm sorry, hang on, let's regroup.
No, you know, I was thinking of like, I wasn't thinking of domestic violence, I was thinking of like a kidnapping situation, like, well, wouldn't she be mad at it? But, or he, she or he, but no, I understand what you're saying.
Okay, you get it? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
For number 3, oh, no, sorry, not number 3.
I don't care about numbers, I'll be honest.
Okay.
I guess everybody else does, so never mind. Scratch that, go ahead, give us the number.
Okay. For number 3, sorry, it says compare and contrast between the following dramaturgy, phenomenology and symbolic interactions. Could we say that, okay, we have dramaturgy, which is you have these roles, and then like each theory almost builds upon the other ones, that now you have dramaturgy, you have your roles, then you have symbolic interactions where you have those objects and everything has meanings, and then finally phenomenology, we have people are trying to sustain those meanings and those like interactions and stuff.
I see some reactions to
They
what
correlate.
They all correlate, but what's the bigger picture? Where's the umbrella?
Symbolic is the big
Symbolic
one.
is the umbrella.
Oh,
Symbolic is the umbrella, and dramaturgy and phenomenology fall underneath it.
okay.
So it would be better to start your conversation with the broad discussion of interactionism, and then start talking about the nuances of dramaturgy and phenomenology.
Okay.
I'm gonna draw a little umbrella.
Huh?
I'm gonna draw a little umbrella in my.
Do it. Do it. Draw the umbrella. Sometimes visuals work. They help. Don't put it in your book as part of your essay, but no. You do not get credit for illustrations.
What if you almost got away with it? Almost did.
No, that's good though, but I understand that.
Did it help now?
Yeah, but, cause we've been talking about that question for like a week or 2.
Good.
And it's like.
As you should be. That's why I gave them to you far in advance. What else? Yes, ma'am.
I know that gets tired of me asking this question again since I asked one yesterday regarding the performing the character.
Performer and character.
Yeah, so I'm trying to.
If you're struggling to reformulate your question, Ms. Waller,
Can I answer that?
go ahead.
Okay, so think of it like this. Okay, symbolic interaction. The performer, okay, Kerry Washington is the performer. That's her core self. And her character is, she plays Olivia Pope. Oh, you did.
I gave that one.
Yeah, she did that one.
I gave that one a class.
Well, that was good. That really made me understand.
That's it.
I'm glad I was helpful.
That really, I'm like, okay.
Think about it in terms of yourself, like, dramaturgy, you are the performer, and how you said, like,
I'm a lot.
And then out of work.
Yeah.
Oh, that was Bonita. So,
It's okay.
Hmm.
It's all right. Kerry Washington is a public figure. Anybody could have got it. Anybody could use that.
Okay, I have to ask this one question about crisis.
I have to ask.
Well, it's.
Go ahead.
I thought the role of crisis was to bring things to light so that things could change. And someone else was talking about crisis is the phenomena itself.
It's both.
Oh.
there has to be crisis in critical theory, right?
Crisis in critical theory is a critical component. It is an essential component to critical theory, right? Because oftentimes we can have what we call a crisis, right? Or the phenomenon can be occurring, but we have yet to label it as a crisis. It is when we label it a crisis, then all of a sudden, oh my God, we gotta find a fix for it. The opioid example, right? People been doing drugs for generations.
Oh, yeah.
But now that we say it's a crisis, now we gotta figure out a fix. That make sense?
Yeah.
So it's actually both.
I mean-
The crisis is both the phenomena and the prompter of fixing.
You gotta fix the crack with the war on drugs, so like.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So you said when it's labeled a crisis, then it becomes a phenomenon?
When it's socially, accepted as a crisis, the phenomena has already occurred. The phenomena is ongoing,
Okay.
okay? But it is when we find that when it is labeled a crisis,